Juan, it's been great to talk to you, man. It's
Likewise.
so cool. You are a
Likewise.
hero, man.
Yeah.
You're just a wonderful example, and you're still standing in the gap with our young people today as a teacher for
Yeah.
our youth, right? You
Yeah.
get to see, let me tell you something. Our public school system is not the most well supported, well
Mm.
funded
Yeah.
organization that it should be, right?
Right.
A lot of people abandoned our public schools many
Yeah.
years ago,
Yeah.
and it's sad. So
Yeah.
thank you, thank you, thank you for what you're doing, and you are making a difference with the young people in our country.
Right. Well, I appreciate you asking me to do this. That's it's an honor. I told you, like I said, that was an honor. Just being on your little on your podcast thing. It's great. It's amazing, and I thank you as well, Will. Putting this together and and publicizing it, because we get to see people that we haven't seen in a while. Like I was telling you, for example, Usao. That was one of my mentors. So I was like, thank God I get to see somebody there, that I didn't have not seen. And we're talking about 1992, 93.
Isn't that wild?
So I appreciate everything that you do for reaching out to us,
Well,
for the career.
I love it, man. I tell you, this is for your kids and grandkids, okay? That's what this is for. I wish I had my grandfather in an interview with him telling about his life and
Yeah,
times and the things that were important to him and when he was standing in the gap as a young man. And
right,
we're just the right age that we can kind of look back on those times. Our
right,
our testosterone level has peaked and we're starting to go down a little bit. We're
right.
not fighting each other.
Yeah, right.
Marshall in the middle.
Now we're finally getting somewhere.
Hello,
Yeah.
hello. Can you hear me?
I do hear you. How you doing?
Awesome, awesome. I like the flag in the background.
Oh, airborne. Airborne. Let me see what's happening with my sound. Hold on. Let me get something. Do doom ba boom boom. Let's try that. See if that does anything. Test test. Talk to me.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I'm trying to get you
One,
in my.
two, three.
Yeah, I got you. I'm trying to get you in my headphones. I've had some. Obviously, I guess I'm having some technical difficulties tonight trying to get my act together. I sent you the wrong link and everything. My
Uh,
apologies.
I thought the link was on because of it wasn't the right time. It didn't allow you in.
No. I just now I will mess up a time in a heartbeat. Look, when it says Central or Eastern or whatever, I might be totally messed up. But tonight, I guess I sent the wrong link somehow. It's interesting when you send stuff on your phone versus on your
Yeah,
computer, and
right.
I'm getting older, man. I'm starting
Yeah,
to mess things up, right?
right, right. There's
So
just so much technology out there.
yeah. So, I mean, what's going on in your world? First sergeant, junior
And
ROTC instructor extraordinaire. I bet,
th-
dude, that's got to be a rewarding job, right?
it is. It is. It really is. And not just for the students, but I get to help other fellow soldiers when they retire a career in GRTC. So I get to talk to those guys here on Fort Bliss, or they'll just call me because it's like I'm the point of contact here for El Paso. They all call me.
Yay, that's really
Yeah.
cool, man. That's really cool. And are
Yeah.
you at Horizon? Is that right?
Yeah. I'm at Horizon High School. I've been there, Will, for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And before that, I was at UTEP. I was assistant professor of military science at ROTC.
That's blessed, man. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Cause I mean, you get to touch our nation's youth, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And what's rewarding in GRTC is the culminating uh, creme de la creme is when they go into ROTC and graduate from one of the academy, the service academies or the university, and they come out and they ask to be your first salute, you know, that's what's really great. That's like the cherry on the cake.
I want to hear about some of that. That's pretty cool, right? So
Yeah.
I have two nephews in the Naval Academy right now.
Oh,
So proud of
awesome.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're doing great, and you know, the military tradition is strong. I tell me about where you're from.
Okay. Well, I come from a military background. You know, my dad was in the military. He was an 11 Bravo. My mom is from Spain. So my dad and my mom met in Europe, in Germany, and in Stuttgart, the Stuttgart area. And my dad, being my mom was from Spain, I only lived 5 years in the United States from from 0 to 20. So I lived 15 years in Europe between Germany and then back to Spain when my dad retired in 1981. Yeah. And then I joined, my brother was in 82nd when I was in high school.
Oh wow.
So, and I saw him in his outfit because they used to wear like cravats and all really nice kind of stuff. And he had this picture and he would tell me about the airborne and all that kind of stuff. And he was a medic. And I was like, damn, that would be fun. You know, and I'm like the big risk type guy, you know, I like that kind of stuff. So I didn't get airborne coming in. I had to fight in my first duty assignment to get, you know, 300 on a PT test, you know, back in mid 19, because I came in May 1988. And I got the 300 like in 1991, you know, because they weren't let, it was, remember, because of the Cold War, I mean, the Gulf War. So once all the Gulf War stuff lifted, then my 4187 went in and I was approved because in the 82nd, we were short stingers in battalion. So I don't know if you remember Sergeant George Lewis. Did you ever remember meet Lewis? Well, Lewis went before me, Leach went before me, and then I went because we were all together. Yeah, we were.
Oh no way.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah. We
cool.
were all together at Fort Carson, and those guys left, and then I went after. I was like the last one, but we all went to Alpha Battery. So I was
Oh, that's cool.
assassins.
Te- tell me though more a little bit about growing up internationally. I mean, that's got to
Oh,
be an interesting thing, right? You got to have a different perspective on life than other kids.
yeah, you know, I grew up going to Department of Defense schools in Europe. So I had I had the experience in Germany as a little kid, all the way up to seventh grade. Um, but Germany was packed with U.S. forces. I mean, we were all over the place, um, and it was a great experience because me. What was crazy is my mom being Spanish. I was learning German in school because that's how we had German, and you know there was no foreign language. The foreign language was German, so we would learn German. So since I was a little kid, all the way up to seventh grade, I was learning German and speaking German. And my mom, she knew German, Spanish, Italian, and I would communicate with her in English so she can practice her English, and she would talk to us in Spanish, and then we'll talk to us in German sometimes. Um, but I didn't speak Spanish. Will, I didn't speak. I was embarrassed. It's crazy. I was embarrassed to speak Spanish, you know, which would have been one of my native tongues there, you know. But it was great. And then I went to high school in Rota, Spain. It's a naval base. So I grew up there, and that was it's a very key strategic base in the Strait of Gibraltar. So it was, I had a great, I would say I had a grade A high school education. You know, no interference or anything like that. Because I mean, we couldn't drive cars like we do here in the States. There was no fast food, so nobody would take off anywhere. But our high school, Will, was on the beach, was near the beach. And I'm a beach guy, so we used to go to the beach all the time.
I love it. That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Did you ever get injured as a kid or have a health scare or anything like that?
You know, I did, Will. I did. Um, I used to be super. I was all the way. I was super athletic. So I played baseball, baseball, football, soccer, handball. I played everything. You know, that's how it was back then in the '80s. We play everything. But I did when I turned 14. Will, I was a freshman on the high school varsity team, and I had gotten appendicitis, and I was out for like shoot 3 days. I was down at home, you know, with stomach pains and all that kind of stuff. What my mom was thinking, oh, it's I ate too much candy or something like that. I'm like, no, you know, I couldn't do anything. And then we have a friend that lived down the street, and he was a doctor. So my mom said, I told my mom I couldn't take it no more. It was 3 days already. So then she went to get him, and he came and checked. I mean, I was sweating profusely. He goes, oh my God, he's got a rub, you know, he felt my stomach, my lower abdomen. And he goes, yeah, he's got an appendicitis. And thank God, you know, I was super fit, Will. I was super fit. So that's what saved me, because they took me to the hospital and they're like, well, damn, this kid is like, he's not even supposed to be alive. You know, he's tough. And I had a perforated appendix. So there was nothing left of the appendix, and all the poisons were all into my organs, all around it. So they had to go in there and do a whole moving around of the organs, and then, you know, clean it all up and get it all out, and then reset everything back in. So I stayed there for 14 days. And Will, like you asked, what's it like being overseas in the military? Well, during that time frame, you know, the US bases were not wanted in Europe. So at the same time, while I was hospitalized, there was chaos in the streets in the city that in Rota, Spain. Americans were getting beat up, they were getting hijacked. There was like bombings of the cars. I mean, and there's a lot of American sailors that live off base. And then we have a lot of families, and my friends were like dual citizenship. Like me, I'm dual citizen, a Spanish descent and American. And they were getting harassed. You know, the house was getting like little, what do you call those things? Shit. Like little bottles of fuel, and, you know.
Oh, Molotov
You know those things?
cocktails.
Molotov cocktails. There you go. The Molotov cocktails. They were doing that stuff at the houses, man. It was crazy. And then here I am laying in the hospital bed, and I'm getting next to me sailors that were jumped, beat up. I mean, it was crazy. It was really crazy. For 2 weeks, it was like that. That was the worst ever. And that was in 1984. It was horrible seeing that, because, you know, we weren't used to seeing that.
So tell me your reaction to that as a kid. How old were you? Were you laying
I
in the
was
hospital
Will, I
bed?
was 14, maybe going 15. I think no, you know, I might have been 15 already, Will. I was 15. And you know, it's funny because we were playing basketball and we were practicing, and then we were warming up before we go inside the gym. So we had an outdoor court. So we're playing out there outside, and I was looking another way and the ball came towards me, but it hit me in the groin. So that's what it started, the whole, oh, you know, I was hurt in the groin area in my pelvis area. And that's what kind of like kick-started that piece right there. And I was like, oh shoot. So I thought, I was like, dang man, that was a horrible pass, you know. but yeah, that's how it all started.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was quite interesting.
Wow. So, tell me a little bit about your patriotism. You know, your dual citizenship, and
Yeah.
I mean, how does that work? Tell me about that.
So this is a wild story too, Will, because I was born in Germany in the 1960s. Well, the law is if you're born abroad, you have to do that country's military. So here I am. I was my senior year in high school. No, my junior year in high school, but I was 18 already, my junior year, towards the end. So the consulate, the German consulate said, okay, hey, the law was you had to go into military service. So my parents had gotten a paper saying, hey, so and so, you know, has to go into the German Bundeswehr. So I was looking at my dad. I was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to go. I'm going to go into the German army, you know, and I was still in high school, but I was 18. Uh, and he's like, well, they wrote back to the consulate and everything like that. And they said, oh, okay, so he's still in school. So they had to prove that I was still in school. So they said, okay, well, when he finishes high school, you're coming to do the Bundeswehr. I was like, oh, hell. But Will, lucky, the laws changed. And they said, if you're born abroad, you don't have to do the military service if you're born from an American citizen. So I was very happy to hear that.
That would be so. Look. I guess I'm an American. I
Yeah.
grew up in Alabama. I can't imagine putting on a German uniform. That would just
Yeah.
be weird, right? That'd be
Yeah.
like,
Well, yeah. Well, my biggest fear, Will, was speaking. Because remember, I left Germany when I was 12 years old, and then I went to Spain, and then my parents put me and my sister into a Spanish school system before we went to high school, and I already finished seventh grade, so I was there for 2 years in a Spanish school system, me and my sister. So we were forced to learn Spanish, read, write, and speak, like, right? So, and then, you know, back then, Will, it was the education system was do or die. You either do well or you don't do well at all. You know, you flunk. So me and my sister were like, dang, man, we gotta do very well. So we did well enough, you know. And then my dad said, okay, well, you guys know Spanish good. And my sister knew it well enough. So then because my dad now was retired from the military, but he was civil service. So now that allowed us to go to the American high school, but we would have to pay. So we had to pay the school to go to high school there. So we went to high school all 4 years, thank God, because that's very important. Um, and then I think my parents paid like for 2 years, and then my dad got promoted, and he became the what do you call it? He was the director of printing and publications of all Europe. You know, and this was an infantryman. You know, an infantryman being into publications and all that kind of stuff. So he did all the blueprints, all the documents, all the naval documents and stuff like that, all the regulations, the Sync Navier stuff for the Sixth Fleet. So he was doing really well. I mean, like I said, for an infantryman, and lucky he finished his college, the last year of college that he had, because he never finished college. You know, he went to Vietnam and everything, and he got drafted when he wasn't registered in college. They pulled his number and said, hey, you got to go. So he was like, shit, you know, I mean, he said, dang, you know, he can't he got unfortunate. And then when he was in the military, you know, it was just a different, you know, the 70s and 80s Army was, you know, it wasn't that good, but, you know, we were so powerful and stuff like that, but by the numbers. But he, you know, he retired as a E7 promotable at that. And then they said, 22 years, do you want to continue? And we'll send you to, his next assignment was going to be at Fort, what is it? It was in California, Monterey. So he was getting stationed there, but then he said in 1981, no, that's it. He's calling it quits. So I was like, you know, I was really happy. A 12-year-old, shoot, going to California, man, me and my sister were like, oh, shoot. And some of our best friends were from California. So we're like, oh, happy. And they said, no, I'm getting out of the Army. We're going to Spain. I was like, dang.
Wow, it's Spain or California, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty good choice,
Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
12 years old.
Right.
Yeah. So, what was your favorite sport to play as a kid?
Well, as a kid, I played well, I always played football, I always played baseball, and I always played basketball. Those three sports I've always played. Well, the 2 years I didn't play the football because I was in the Spanish school system, but I continued playing baseball and I played basketball all the time. And then I picked up another sport, handball. I don't know if you've seen the Olympics, they play handball. Well, I was on the city team. I played for the city as a teenager. I was 17. So I played that for a while. And then I don't want to brag, but when I was 10 years old, I was on the Little League World Series team at 10 years old. And then I made it again at 15.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So I made the team twice and for the Little League World Series.
What was y'all's team name, or was it a city or a nation, or what?
No, it was the like for the country that we were in. So I made the team for Germany, the Little League World Series team and you know it goes in levels. So I was on the youth team for when I was 10 years old, and then I was on the senior team when I was 15 for Spain. So it was the American Forces in Spain, Little League World Series.
Oh, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
did you get up to bat and hit the home run, or did you
Well,
strike
that's
out?
hey, no, I never struck out. That's how I made the team because I had the highest batting average.
There you go. You was the Pete Rose
Yeah, I was
of Little League.
yeah, I was my first year I was a shortstop, and then my senior league I was third base.
That's great. You gotta have a cannon if you're gonna play third
Yeah.
base, buddy.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. And then you know you get to mentor. When I was in high school, I got to mentor a lot of the other upcoming athletes and stuff like that.
Isn't it neat how team sports teaches you so
Yeah.
many things? If nothing else, to patting your buddy on the back when they
Right.
strike out, right? It's
Right.
okay, you know?
Yeah, but remember, you know, our coaches were military. So already we already had that discipline. Yeah, exactly. We had that discipline already for that. So that's, you know, everyone was, you know, we didn't back talk or anything like that. And then we were very diverse too, Will. You know, we had African American, we had Asian, we had Black, African American, Hispanics. I mean, we had it all, and we were all like this. And that was one of the benefits of going to overseas schools, because everybody was like this, regardless. And I know, and I didn't get to see all of that back here in the States. And I know you were from the South, you said, and I think me and you are about the same age. I'm 53.
Me too.
So, and I know for high school for you, because I heard other friends of mine, they would tell me their high school experience, and Will, it wasn't the same. You know, there was still segregation, and you know, yeah, I couldn't believe that, because when I went to basic training, some of my peers, that I'm still friend with today, they would tell me their stories, and I'm just, I was very disappointed. I was like, I just couldn't believe it. It
Yeah.
was something like out of the '60s.
Hey, you and I grew up like so. I was born in May of '68. Okay,
Oh, okay.
I grew up in Southeast Alabama. We call it East LA. Okay, I I grew up in a blessed kind of way. I really
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
But now I I experienced a time that many people in my generation and my location were not ready for. My
yeah,
mom and dad
yeah,
purchased a house 1 block away from an elementary school so that I could walk to school and go to school for my first, that's why they
yeah.
bought the house,
Right.
right? In my third grade year, they decided that they were going to segregate the school systems and bus me
Yeah.
on the
Mhm.
other side of the city. When I had an elementary school less than a block from the house, but yet
Yeah.
I had to walk further than that away to get on a bus to go on the other side of the. And but looking back on it, I get it. But I lived through that time. I
Yeah.
lived through craziness. When I was in
Yeah.
high school, we had the first guy that looked around and said, "Hey, I want to be a cheerleader. Can I be a cheerleader? I want to be
Yeah.
a cheerleader." Right? And for our culture at that time, man, it was like, "Wow!" But looking back on it, it was like, why can't we just let people be themselves? Why
Yeah.
can't we just enjoy each other and celebrate what we all want to do? I want to
Yeah.
paint. That's cool,
Yeah.
right? I want to
Mhm.
type stories or make videos, and you want to be a cheerleader. Yay, let's all do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, Will, and that's another thing, being overseas, it was more, um, there wasn't none of the racism stuff, like that. We didn't see that because Europe is a conglomerate of all the races all around. And then where I'm at, we're next to Africa. So we have a lot of Africans living in our city and around and all that kind of stuff. So it was all, we say it every day. But we never mistreated anybody. The Europeans are like, they're super. If they had any type of racism, it was, they never said nothing or treated you bad or anything like that. They just, okay, you live your life, we live our life, that's it. But the majority of it, Will, it was not like that. And then our my friends coming back from the states to our school, it was, they never mentioned none of that stuff to us. And if they did, then we embraced them. And that's one of the biggest things that helped me in the military, Will, was I understood the brotherhood, one color, you know, and shoot, that's why I get along with all. Even in the military, Will, we even had LG. We knew LGBTQ before it was even LGBTQ,
You
right?
know, you know your brothers and sisters in
Yeah,
arms. You
right,
know the
right,
person that's in the foxhole next to you. You may not have an implicit conversation about
right,
anything, right?
right,
But
right.
everybody, look, here's what happened in the army. We all
Yeah,
stayed in our own lane, didn't we?
yeah,
You did
right.
what you needed to do. Look, I'm not saying that don't ask, don't tell is great policy, but
Right.
I'll tell you in a lot of cases, it works well in a military environment because when you're in the foxhole together, you're pointed outward and you're taking care of your buddy, and that's
Yeah.
all that matters. And I
Yeah.
never saw it. I never had it impact me in any kind of way
Yeah.
where
No,
we
yeah,
were in a
exactly. And
problem.
Will, I never, like you, I was a first sergeant in a high mat unit. My last two assignments was, and that's when I actually had females. And some of them even came to me, Will, and they expressed it to me, during the don't ask, don't tell. I never said anything. They came to me and they would tell me that. And I was like, okay, that's all great. That's your personal life. I go, all I'm interested as you as a specialist or a sergeant, staff sergeant, whatever, I just want you to do your job, you know, and, you know, don't try, you know, don't let it affect you here. But if I see, if it gets out of hand, you know, like if they get like bullied, you know, like that, harassed, hazed, you know, that kind of stuff, then yeah, I would intervene then. But fortunately, Will, I never had any of that going on. You know, I was in a very well-disciplined unit. I was in 144 that came from Fort Hood up to Fort Bliss, and then I was in 3-2 here as well for those two Patriot units right there. But I never had any of that stuff, Will. You know, we even deployed as a battalion in 3-2 as a battalion, you know, to Korea as a battalion when China and North Korea was getting all cray, you know, so we kind of, you know, we were there for the defense, and we're all around the country, which we're still there today. And I think you went there. I think you went to Okinawa, right?
No, no, I never went. I was gonna go to Okinawa, but I ended up putting in my retirement paperwork and not going.
Oh, okay.
I was at one point. At one point, after I got back from Korea, Evans called me and said, "Hey, there's that radar out there in Japan, and you want to go over there." I think Burnley, it was either Burnley had left or was going. Actually, Burnley was there and leaving. I think I was replacing him, or maybe I was replacing Williams that had replaced Burnley, I think.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I looked around, I was like, no, I'm retiring. No, I'm done. I'm done. I'm tired to get off this train. And
Right.
it was the right time for me. I'm glad I did. But tell me about you coming in the Army. You know, you came in 88.
Yeah. I came
that.
in 1988. I did the one station unit training right here at Fort Bliss. It was and then, you know, being in May, hot. I didn't leave here until August, but it was super hot here in El Paso, desert environment. And we used to march to the field, Will. We marched from Logan Heights all over. We went over the bridge that goes into Chapin High School, that little track that's around Chapin High School. You know, we did, that used to be our PT. And then where Chapin High School sits now, where Chapin High School sits now, that was all the welcoming center, the get your hair cut, the little shop ed, you know, all that. And then we would cross that bridge, and then we'd go into, there's a housing area there now, but it was all nothing. And then we would road march into the desert and go all the way down to, and be bus. Sometimes we got bus, and then that's where our road marches were, you know, back then. To go down into the bivouac area and the gas chamber, our marksmanship range, all that stuff. So it was a hard lesson, and I'm glad I came in during that time, Will. And honestly, to tell you the truth, I really wasn't going to come in to the military. That wasn't my plan. You know, I joined when I was 20. I was a college student. I was working. I did other stuff on the side as well. I'll tell you, and don't laugh, okay? So I was doing modeling. So I was modeling in Europe, right? So I was modeling in Europe. I came into the Army, and then when I went up to Fort Carson, I got picked up again for modeling. So I don't know if you know the name brand Bugle Boy. Do you remember Bugle Boy? Okay. Well, I used to model for Bugle Boy, for 3 years. I did 3 years in Europe, 3 years with Bugle Boy as a professional. So when I was there, that's why at 6 years, más o menos, that's it for any young man. 6 years. There's no money. And because that's it, your body changes. I mean, my body, I was in great shape, but then I went airborne. So
you gotta send me
my
some
whole life changed after that.
You gotta send me some pictures.
I got it.
See
It's in my Facebook.
Oh, I'm gonna do a dig.
All the
I'm gonna
pictures,
do a
people.
deep dive.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do a deep
I get
dive.
harassed a lot. But
Oh, I can't wait to do your slideshow. That's
hey,
gonna be
Will,
fun.
it was quite. But you know, there's a lot of benefits. You get to keep all the clothes, you get to meet all the people, and I mean, there's a lot of benefits.
No, 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 no,
That's
no, no,
another
no.
Will. That's another
No,
show.
no, 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 no. We got to talk about the French benefits.
Yeah, well, there was it was a doozy. It was very
Oh,
hard.
oh my God. Yes, I bet it
It
was.
was very hard. It was and then Will, my hair, I would push, and you know this because I know you came in the 80s too, like me. You know, I would push. I mean, our hair wasn't like had to be high and tied and all that kind of stuff. But I would actually push the limit on the hair code, you know,
Yeah.
the hair regulation. But I was right, you know, it was off the ears, it was tapered in the back. I mean, if you look into some people always go into my Facebook and say, hey, I saw your album and I saw your pictures, and I was like, yeah. I go, I posted in there because a lot of people always ask me about it, about my modeling days. And I was like, yeah, I go there. I put them in there because that way people can look. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
you were a soldier in the army doing on a modeling contract.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, you kind of, I don't guess you got to keep it hidden at the
Yeah.
same time, but you don't want the first sergeant to say, hey,
Oh yeah.
you know, your modeling agent called.
But remember, yeah, but remember, Will, we had to tell the commanders and the first sergeant. Remember, because we had to tell them if we're doing moonlighting. Remember, it's called moonlighting. So
Right.
the job, it was moonlighting as a model, and I would have to take leave, and they would grant me leave as long as it didn't interfere to go to the shows. But I only will just to make it clear. I did runway because I'm tall. I'm 6'1", so I did runway modeling and bathing suits. I didn't do underwear. I called it. I didn't want to do no underwear stuff.
We're going to find a Playgirl photo shoot. We're going to find it. I'm going to go deep down and search it, man. We're going to find it. That's great, man. Airborne.
Yeah.
Airborne. I'm so proud of that. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's cool, right?
But
That's
Will,
cool.
check it out. When people recognize me, they'll recognize me in the store because of the magazines and stuff, like from the local magazines and stuff. And of course, my clothes was all Bugle Boy stuff. So then they would say, oh, are those Bugle Boys you're wearing? And I would look back and I'll say, yes, they are. But there was a commercial, and that's why it all started like that, because there was already a commercial like that where women would go up to the guys and say, hey, are those Bugle Boys? And it's like a scene from behind. And the guy would turn around and say, yes, the Bugle Boys, you know, and stuff like that. So that's how I got to meet a lot of people.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, I'm just dying, man. I love it. I love you. Yeah, I mean, so that's one of the coolest things about what I'm doing is I'm finding out so many cool things about people, right?
Yeah.
You know, it is. We all have such fascinating stories,
right?
You know?
And check, yeah, right. And check. You interviewed Oosterhout. right? I think probably a couple of weeks ago or something like that. And I watched it. And I'm gonna tell you, Oosterhout was, I was an E5 when I was in an Alpha battery. And Oosterhout was somebody that I looked up to in Charlie battery. And because he was tall, he carried himself really well. And then he got, because he went into ROTC when he was an E7. And that was something when I didn't know that, you could go and teach that. And that's actually been in the back of my mind that whole time in my career, was like, hey, I'm going to do that someday. So I was eyeballing West Point, and that's, I'll by a hair, because when I was deployed in Afghanistan, I had to do another assignment. I got called up and I had to do a special assignment. And then I was already 87 by then. And they said, hey, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to be, I want to go into be an instructor at West Point. So I put all my packet together, I sent it off. And then I had told this, I should have kept my mouth shut, because they were pulling E7s from the line, with combat experience, to go and teach at the academies and stuff like that. Well, I said it to somebody else, and I did it the right way, the formal way of going through my chain of command and all that kind of stuff. Well, I had a guy backdoor me and called the school directly. And because they were in such need of instructors, they, he got his. And so when we left, he said, hey, Juan, I got my, he was a platoon sergeant in another platoon in a different area. And when he told me that, I was like, I looked at him, I was like, I go, dude, I told you I was doing that. He goes, well, yeah, because it sounded like such a good idea. I just went and called the school straight up. And then, the school, those academies have a lot of pull, so then he ended up being over there as an instructor. And then I was like, okay. So then I called, I think it was Lincoln. I think Lincoln was the issuing guy up at the, what was called, what was that position called?
Branch or something.
Yeah, the branch manager. He was the branch manager. So he asked me if I wanted to do, any special assignment like recruiting and all that kind of stuff. Well, I thought about recruiting because my wife, she was in the Army too. And she was a senior NCO as well. So I was like, okay, that'd be cool. We have both of us. But then I said, no, she didn't want to do it. At the end, she didn't want to do it. She said she wanted to get out of the Army. I was like, okay. Well, she ended up getting out while I was still deployed. And then I was like, okay, what other special assignments? And they said, well, you can go to Fort Bliss and you can become a observer controller. So I did ACRC. And then I ended up getting promoted. I was number one. I was number one on the E8 list. So I was the ACRC, and then the post commanding general and the post CSM, he was air defense. So he came down to us and told me, hey, Juan, he goes, hey, Ferreira, he goes, you can't be here no more. And I was like, okay. He goes, yeah, because we need you as the number one guy. We need you out there on the line. So that's when I went to 144, and I was actually looking for, they said, hey, go out there and look for a unit. And you remember Cuppers? So Cuppers was the CSM for 2-1. And they went to Okinawa. They were preparing to go to Okinawa. But I had just gotten there, Will, because I was only there for a year at that assignment as an observer controller. But they were deploying. But it was really great being in as an observer controller, because I ended up being the NCOIC of a unit in my team. It consisted of 4 people. So I would have been you know, I would have been the first sergeant of a reserve unit. So it's the top leadership. And that's how it worked. I really didn't know that until I was actually in the unit. And we had 4 batteries with 4 senior NCOs in each one of them. And then 1 officer. And then that officer would take over as the commander. And then me, I would be like the first sergeant. And we would take these reserve units, deploy. So what happened is, before all that happened, before I got moved out, I was it's called the NCR, the National Capital Region. I don't know if you know about that. Okay, so I was the NCOIC of the National Capital Region in Washington, D.C. So I always had to inspect and all that kind of stuff. But because I was #1 on our branch list between air defense and field artillery, they said, hey, go out, look for this, go look for a unit. It doesn't matter where. And I was like, well, shoot, I just got to Fort Bliss and I didn't want to have to move. But in my mind though, Will, I really wanted to do, I thought about the 101st. I know I wasn't ready to go back to the 82nd. You know, I wanted to try something different because in my career, I got to choose what I wanted to go. I went high, I went heavy, light, heavy, light, heavy, light. So that's how my career, I actually got to do that. And I served in some good units. But to stay on Fort Bliss, I stayed with HIMAD, you know, and then they had 1 battery that was HIMAD. And Evans was in that battalion, you know. So it was like, I think we had 3 batteries of HIMAD, 1 SHORAD, and then 1 maintenance, right? You were in 252.
I was in 552 for a little bit.
552, okay. But 552, that was all SHORAD, right?
Yeah. So what you're talking about is that for a while they did a composite battalion. They tried to get a little bit of SHORAD, a little bit of HIMAD, and you know what happened with that.
Yeah.
It was another, just a way to consolidate things.
Right.
That's what it really was, looking back on it. You know, it's amazing looking back on your time in the Army is how we were all flowing like water.
Yeah.
The equipment, the people, it was just a big dance we were all a part of, right?
Yeah. Right. And you know, I was very fortunate, Will. I say I had a very successful military career because I got to do, you know, here I am, I'm a combat arms air defense guy. And I got to become, I didn't tell you, when I was stationed in Germany, not only did I deploy to Bosnia, the first ones in, but when I came back, I became a liaison. I was an attaché. So they selected me as an attaché for my rank. And because of my background, I had a top secret security clearance. I had a foreign language. And my NCOERs, you know, they look at all that stuff. So they picked an E6, 1 E6, 1 E7, 1 lieutenant, 1 second lieutenant, 1 captain. So we would travel, it was 5 of us. We would travel all of Europe and Eastern Europe for nations that were, our mission was, okay, they would send us to the nations that wanted to join NATO. So the countries that our team had was Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Poland, Romania, and Hungary. So those were the 5 countries that we would go and review. And it was crazy, Will, because going into former Soviet armies, it was crazy. It was an experience. I was scared shitless. I was really scared. Yeah, I was really scared. You know, I was always on the defensive, but we would go to the academies, and it was twofold because we would go to the academies, and over there in the Soviet bloc, armies, those countries, you were either an officer or a conscript. So we would go over here on this half, and there was no NCOs. And I was a staff sergeant, so me and the 7 would have to articulate in the academies how that NCO, what filled the gap. You know, we were that gap in between these guys and these guys. So they would ask us, you know, a whole bunch of questions at the academy level, you know. So we would answer all that stuff for them, you know, describing how our military functions in the NCO ranks. You know what they didn't understand, Will, and you know this, we were more decorated on the uniform than our officers. So, so that was very hard for them to understand. They say, how is it that you know, I mean, I was already a Jumpmaster too, Will. So they looked at all my stuff and then, you know, our badges and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, well, the officer only had like 2 or 3 ribbons. And they're like, oh, you know, it was very hard for them to understand that. So we had to explain all that kind of stuff for them because, you know, we were the ones that, you know, the commanders, they put out the orders, they put out the vision, and then the NCOs will go out there and make the stuff happen. And then when we're successful, of course, we're going to get rewarded, you know, because that's just what NCOs do. You know, we train the soldiers. So, and now if you notice, now in NATO, those 5 countries that I was a part of, they're in NATO. Yeah, so that was great. So when I was in Afghanistan, I got to see those guys. You know, we worked with all those countries, and that was really rewarding, Will, for that part, because that was a part of history. You know, and I was really happy about that. But then when I got back from that, Will, there was too many staff sergeants in Germany, and this was in 1998. So then they said, okay, hey, where do you guys want to go? Because we're gonna cut you 6 months early from your assignment. So I was like, oh, we can go anywhere in the world. So I in my mind, I was thinking, okay, let me go somewhere like Hawaii. I had Hawaii on my mind, but I was like, you know what? I'm not ready to go to Hawaii. So what I did is I went back to North Carolina. So I went back to Bragg. So, I mean, that was a good choice because, you know, I wanted to stay close to home because remember, my parents are still in Europe. So I wanted to go back to Europe and make it easy. And my flights from Virginia, that's where I would fly out of on MAC flights back to Europe to visit my family.
That's great.
But yeah, man, it was I had a great career. I mean, I loved it. But 22 years, Will, I had to get out. And also towards the end, when I already saw that I wanted to get out, I became a teacher. So I was teaching at the university. So I was teaching for Central Texas College as a professor. And that didn't happen until I went to Hawaii, where I was finally approved. So I taught in Garrison, you know, after working and all that kind of stuff. Again, I had to do the moonlighting thing again. So I got approved. And then I would teach classes in the unit, at the unit level, at our own barracks for those students to get credits and stuff like that. And then when I got deployed, they made me teach again, Will. And you know, I was in the infantry. You know, how we get attached. Well, as when I was with the 25th, because I deployed with the 25th Infantry, and again, my records were really, really good. You know, air defense, we had a very good rapport with our infantry brothers and stuff like that. I mean, you know how it works all the time. Well, I ended up being the first sergeant, Will. I was the first sergeant for an infantry company. And my commander was armored. He was an armored officer we were HHC, the headquarters company, in the 25th, which was 235 infantry at a Schofield Barracks. But we were a maneuver infantry. So I had my own brothers of air defense that I was the platoon sergeant for. And then I had the engineers, I had an MI, I had an AT platoon, anti-tank platoon, I had a sniper, I had a mortar platoon. So we were like a whole bunch of moving pieces. But I did that for 6 months.
Wow.
And I became the operations sergeant major there. And that's how I got looked at, you know, that's how all my records came up number one.
Amen, dude. That's awesome, right? That's big time stuff.
Yeah, that's why I tell people, you know, I had an air defense role, but it was not the conventional air defense stuff. And I think it had to do with all the stuff that I did while I was there.
Let me ask you this. So you see it now, I'm sure. You know, you talked about your awards earlier and how the officers didn't have as many as the NCOs. Do you notice how, I know I did, how much looking back on it, a ribbon or an award really did drive wonderful recognitions, right? How many ceremonies do we have on the basketball court, you know, honoring soldiers, right? Dressed up in your uniform.
And promotions.
Right. Tell me about that. How do you see that, you know?
Today, and you know this, today we would be in trouble because our promotions, let's say just in the 82nd, when we were there in 3-4, remember the basketball court. Well, you get an award, you're going to get, and then if you get promoted,
you remember the gauntlet?
You got to walk that line, you know, and I got promoted twice while I was in that line. So I walked out, you know, and not even that, even Jumpmaster, you know, not once, but 3 times, you know, because it's 3 awards. So I was like, oh, mother, you know, well, actually 2 for the senior and the master. So, you know, you get tore up. I mean, and lucky, Will, I mean, it's hazing today. I mean, when it comes to that kind of stuff, that's the camaraderie type piece of it. And, you know, I mean, I guess I saw it differently. You know, then I was like, hey, that was the process. I mean, that it wasn't an intentional type of, hey, I'm going to get brutal with you. You know, because we never had no brothers like that or sisters that would do that, you know. But I mean, I know how the Army is nowadays, you know, and just looking back, you know, a lot of the guys or girls would get hazed for who they were, you know, and I mean, you remember this too, in the barracks, the cherries that would come in, you know, you're going out the window. You're going out the window. You're going to get tied and you're going out the window. So, I mean, and fortunately, I didn't come to the battalion as a cherry because my mentor, when I was in replacement, do you know who that mentor was in battalion? Mr. Adams. So the bear was my mentor, and he was my because I would do while I was at replacement, I would do the jumps on the weekend. So I would go and Adams, he was a master sergeant. He was the S3 sergeant major back then. So he was mentoring me and jumping I did it 3 times that day, you know, before I even went to battalion. So, and that's why I praise him a lot, because he didn't treat me like, you know, like I would see like a lot of the infantry guys get treated. You know, I was really welcomed and honored, to be, and I was a corporal back then. So I was really, really happy that Master Sergeant Adams was the way he was. And, he's like the gentle giant, but if you messed up, you know what you're getting, but I was never that person. So I never got to see that side, but I did see others mess up and, and get the bear side, the claws, and yeah, and some of the brothers that we had in battalion. I mean, we would push the envelope on a lot of stuff, so I mean, that was great. That's what that airborne brotherhood was about. That's why I say, about the promotions. I knew that was ceremonial, kind of like Viking-ish, yeah, it's like that. But I knew that tradition, and that was a tradition, but I know it's not welcome nowadays. So I don't even know if they do that, the blood wings, that stuff. I don't know.
Listen, blood wings are still happening, okay? Shh. Don't tell nobody, okay?
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, blood wings are still happening and will happen forever, okay? And because it's exactly like you said, okay? It's not hazing.
Yeah.
It is a voluntary admittance into time-honored tradition of warriors. That's what it's about. And but no, we're not gonna publicize it. We're not gonna put on 60 Minutes. You're never gonna see some news story where somebody's complaining about it.
Right.
But I'm gonna tell you, blood wings is happening. It's happening, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a rite of passage. I mean, that's what it is. It's a rite of passage. I mean, you just gotta open up and be accepting.
Oh man, I still feel it, right?
Hey, as you went up the ladder, the numbers of people that could hit you was smaller. So I was like, I was really happy because when I got my master rated, maybe it was like 6 people. So I just had to endure 6 people blowing me up. I was like, whoo.
Hey,
Flag was one of them, and I had some big dudes, man. There was some big dudes.
So tell me some of those personalities you remember.
Oh shoot, man. I mean, one of the Underhill was my first battery commander there in the 82nd. I mean, he stood out because he really welcomed me. I'm in an interview. And he was very influential for me. NCO wise, I had Sergeant First Class Chavez. He's here now in El Paso. He was Middlebrook. He was my squad leader. We call him Yogi.
Wallace? Yogi
Wallace. Wallace. Wallace was an E5 back then. I looked up at him. Cuppers, he was another one that I looked up. Locklear, I think he was in Charlie Battery. I looked up to him. I mean, there was like a plethora of brothers that I would just, I'd keep my mouth shut, look, see how they perform stuff. I mean, I did what I did as a soldier because I learned and watched from the best and took a little bit, like we were taught, look at the people that you want to model and take a little bit of that. And I think that's how I became as an NCO. I never took advantage of any of the soldiers. I was hard, I'll tell you that. I was stern, but I did it for the best interest of them, because we deployed so much in the 82nd, and I deployed 3 times when during my tour of 82nd, and there wasn't none of this it was peacekeeping at one point, but it wasn't really peacekeeping. The deal. So I mean, that's what made me strong, thick-skinned, and that's what I wanted for my soldiers too. So when I went to actual war in Afghanistan, I was, I was ready. My platoon was ready. My officers were ready, and I was very fortunate to have some good officers that were prior enlisted. So they understood. They were prior enlisted as a young specialist or a young E5, maybe just turned E6, and they went green to gold and all that kind of stuff, or OCS. And I mean, that was a good thing. I had good rapport with all of them. So I mean, yeah, I had great relations. I mean, even Sergeant Major Adams, you know, and I went to Jumpmaster school with um, Colonel. Hey, I was just thinking when I was
Colonel Woods.
the one that passed away.
Oh man. Oh,
Pruitt.
Pruitt. Colonel
Pruitt.
Pruitt.
So me and him were in jump master school together.
Oh wow. What year was
And
that?
that was 99.
Oh wow.
So, and you know what, and shortly after that, he was only there for about a year, and then he went to Washington D.C. And then we hear the horrible news, and that guy was super fit. I mean, but that was a tragedy. But some of the people that were in the other units, like I mentioned, Oosterhout, I really enjoyed him. Oh, and Knight, Oosterhout. I used to see Knight and Oosterhout as two smooth brothers. Oosterhout being the white guy, and Knight being the African American guy. Smooth. They even had that cool walk. And I would watch, and I was like, I want to be like that. I want to be like that. Where and then respected by everybody. I mean, they were like the epitome of an NCO. And that's a lot of guys were that I see out of the 82nd. I mean, like me, you, Maggot, we were all at the same level. We were all the same rank around the same time. So me, you got, we were always watching. You were over there at Jumpmaster School. Maggot just came back, I think, during that time frame. I went to Bravo Battery after Alpha Battery, getting promoted to Sergeant First Class. I mean, Albright, I think you had talked to Albright. Albright was my soldier at one time. He was one of my squad leaders. I had him for a very short time because he was E6 promotable. So they moved him out of the unit to go. I think he went to like Delta Battery, so he can do, because I mean, he was wore out already in Bravo. But it was great guys, and I had Middlebrook as a squad leader, and then I had him as a first sergeant. I mean, there was some good. Oh, you guys had Captain Law. You remember Captain Law? Do you remember?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I remember he was Charlie Battery commander at one time. I mean, I speak to all these guys still today, and just carry I don't call them captain and majors. It's first name basis now. I mean, that's all behind us. We all understood each other. And some of the other sergeant majors, like Rogers, Sergeant Major Rogers, great guy. I see him every once in a while. We have, I mean, there's a lot of brothers that live here in El Paso. We would get together, and we'd have like lunch or something like that. We haven't had it during COVID, of course. So it's been like a year and a half. I haven't seen my brothers, but only on, texting and that kind of stuff. But, the military did do a lot for me, and I'm sure it has for you and everybody else as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. They, they say there's no atheist in the foxhole. I was wondering about your spirituality, and was there things that gave you peace at night when you were deployed?
Well, I'm Roman Catholic, so I'm of course, I always, like, when I went to war, I would pray, for me and my fellow soldiers. We had actually we get down on one knee. Will we get on one knee? We, all of us, we'd hold hands, and then we would, every mission. We went on 45 missions, Will, while we were deployed in Afghanistan. And all my brothers, all my soldiers, we made it back, and we were, prayer. I always believe in prayer. God is with me all the time. I didn't get injured during the 13 months out there, and we went out a lot, a lot. We were not the traditional air defense, because we were seen as an anti-tank platoon. So my Avengers, we would have our Avengers, but we wouldn't use them all the time. So I had gunships. So I had Humvees with the turrets. We didn't have the M240 Bravo, but we had an M60, the grenade launcher, the saw. We'd have those weapon systems, and then every once in a while, depending on what the mission was, we'd take the Avenger with us for the FLIR and the 50 cal. So that's what we would use as, for nighttime to view. That's how we incorporated and sold our air defense skills into the multi-combat role that we had.
So look, you just brought up such an interesting and kind of weird concept to think about, right? So here we are at war as air defenders, and we're like, put me in, coach. Put me in, coach. Here's what we can do. If you put me over here, we can do this, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah.
that weird?
Yeah, yeah. And you had to sell yourself. And that's the thing, Will. You have to sell yourself. But that's what I was telling you. I had such a great rapport with my infantry brothers and the commanders, because we would have to go and go to the meetings all the time, jump at night at all hours of the day, and we, as jump masters, were part of the team. We were very integrated with them. Yeah, and there was a guy that, I don't know if you've seen it. He put it on one of the posts. If there was an E5 jump master, an E6 jump master, he would walk like if he was like, God. But that guy had a role, not just there, but you got to remember, he's not just doing air defense stuff, but he has to do a lot of other stuff, like DZSTO, working at in the what is it called?
Deco.
ADAG. Yeah, ADAG. You remember that was another job for us. And these guys that we, that's what a lot of people just don't think. Hey, jump master, yeah, you're a jump master in the plane, blah, blah, blah. You do JMPI, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but there's other stuff that we do too, and they don't see that, and I had to text and put my comments on there. I was like, hey, there's another role that young E5 was doing, but back to that religion thing though, I strongly believe in the religious piece, Will, and thank God, I had all my brothers were religious too, so that was a commonality. Some of them had tattoos. I've always carried my cross, and since I was 14, because I got it from my grandmother, and I never took it off. Airborne operation or not, it was still on my neck. My ID tags, I put them in my pocket and wrapped to my little belt loop, but not my. This was staying right here. But yeah, and then as a leader. And I teach this today. I even taught it at when I was at UTEP, University of Texas here. Religion does play part of your role as a leader because of your values, your morals, and your ethics. You know, a lot of the decisions that you make is based off how you grew up. You know, if you had a good foundation, and I believe I had a good foundation, and then I just kept make sure I kept on it. But that's what. But I wasn't the type of leader, Will, that I would push the religious piece on there. But I was very welcoming to other like religions, because I did have Buddhist, I did have Muslim, I did have other faiths of Christianity. You know, I mean, you know, we talk and we never put no religion down. You know, we just kind of like boosted and respected each other on the religious aspects of stuff.
That's amazing, right? It's good. Yeah, it's good. Tell me, tell me if you got a chance to go relive 1 year again somewhere, where would it be? When would it
There's
be?
more water in the back. It's coming from the
Um,
neighbors.
say that again, Will.
So if you were to go back and relive 1 year again, what year would it be, or what place would it be, or what time would it be?
Yes, I heard you. Um, well, I would. Well, I'd definitely go back to. It would be back at Bragg, to tell you the truth. It would be back to Bragg, and I say that, Will, because I think I've grown a lot as I was there, as a man, you know, and as a professional. Because remember, we used to come over here to Fort Bliss, you know, during our AQFs and stuff, and got to experience different stuff. It was a highlight of my career, and being a paratrooper was the epitome. You know, because we say, hey, once a paratrooper, always a paratrooper, all that kind of stuff. And that's why I would go, no matter what, I'd go back. But I would say 1998, 99, 2000, you know, I mean, even though my other years at the 82nd, my previous years in the early 90s, because I got there when you guys came back from Panama. So that's when I got back. That's when I got into the unit. But like I said, I was still new, and, you know, had a different training. You know, I wasn't the light guy yet, you know, but I was always willing, watching and listening. But my second tour for sure would be that time frame.
Oh, that's great. Were you a good shot and all that stuff? Did you do good at the rifle ranges and stuff?
Was I good at it?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, marksmanship?
yeah.
Oh yeah. I Will, I was a very good marksmanship.
That's great, man. Yeah.
And not to and here's another thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because remember when I was in Afghanistan, when I deployed in Afghanistan, me and another soldier had the opportunity to train as sniper. So we used to have, yeah. So we would train on our downtime, which was only like 4 hours before we go back out again, you know. And the 4 hours is eating, sleeping, you know. So if the time clock was during the daytime, well, we would go out there and train. So me and this other guy would go out, me and one of my other soldiers, who was a specialist, we would go out there and shoot our M1, the M14 M1. So we had that rifle, and I was, like I said, I was a good shot already with my M4 carbine, my pistol, and I was, like I said, I was always really good. And that goes back again, Will, to the training that we had at Fort Bragg, because we would always do reflexive fire. You know, you remember we'd do the jump, walk, road march, and hit the ranges as we go in, you know, with our brothers from the infantry. I mean, that's why I would go back to that time frame. But that's what helped me shoot. And Will, I didn't even have any private weapons or anything like that. So I always shot there. And I always made sure, as a platoon sergeant, that we would go every month. Well, as a platoon sergeant, I would go every month, jump piggyback with somebody just for that, just to shoot, even if it was just, paper targets or the reflexive fire targets, or, I would just find, because you remember as a platoon sergeant, we had to be very resourceful and stuff. But I had the opportunity, and then, my soldier got awarded a Bronze Star with a V device because he shot and killed a guy at a position, one, say almost, it was like 900, it was between 900 and 1,000 yards, Will.
All
He was
right.
at a nest. Yeah.
So
That guy, yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. And he got awarded. We said that he should have got something else, because that guy was part of an ambush to our unit, and he stopped that guy from shooting anymore. And he's here in Texas. He had called me up a couple of months ago. I know who he is and stuff like that. It's not and he's really traumatized too, Will. And that's another thing, that's another topic of just dealing with war stuff. PTSD. I'm not diagnosed with PTSD or anything like that, but the good thing is I talk like you, I get to share memories and talk to other soldiers. And that's really that's what I tell people, because they ask that question, how do you've been exposed to all this stuff? How do you get over it? I was like, well, I talk, I don't go and freak out or anything like that, because I'm already at peace from what I did. I did what I did because I had to do it, and then, faith is part of that too, Will. It's because you were put in a position, so that's where my values had to get compromised, but for the sake of my life.
So who prays for you at night when they lay their head down? Is there somebody that really loves you and prays for you?
Like today, like
I don't know. Yeah,
these days.
probably. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I have, like, now that I teach students, young students, they pray for me. They would even tell me, they got me in their prayers. Their parents got me in their prayers. My wife prays for me all the time. Her family, when I was sick in the hospital in March, the whole believe in the power of prayer. I do believe in the power of prayer. If enough people get out there and love, love is, you have to love that person. You have to love them. And that's a big thing, but I do have my family members that care and love me. So that's a plus.
Amen, right? Amen. Did I see you guys over in Mexico today on a motorcycle ride?
I did. Well,
tell me about that.
Today, and this, I went with the other guy that was in the picture. He's also a former veteran too. And his wife is my wife's childhood best friend. So we went on this trip over here to what's called Palomas del Villa. So the Villa piece is Pancho Villa. So if you saw that statue that was there, that was Pancho Villa in an attack mode. So, the statue, the way the picture didn't do it justice that much. But if you would have saw it up close, it's like really, really detailed. And Pancho Villa, when we went there, because that's one of the areas, there's two towns, and one's on both sides. And that the Mexican side, it's just one street, but has all these old buildings just lining the whole street. And they have like a whole bunch of pottery and all that kind of stuff. And the food, of course, that's always good. They're like street tacos. Everything that's Mexican, it's just great. But it's It's about 100 miles from here, from El Paso, through the desert near the border. So to get there, you got to drive along the fence to get there. But it was very interesting because, like I said, Pancho Villa would intimidate the U.S. cavalry. So he would come across, shoot up some stuff, and then they would all run back. And there's like a river that separates everything, and there's like a little dirt mound that goes across the way. So, and I mean, nowadays it's bigger, but it was smaller, and they would have, you know, soldiers there at that little area. But when you see those sceneries with Pancho Villa and all his posse, you know, overflowing, 2 guys guarding the little strip. I mean, come on, you know, that's like being on CQ and the whole barracks comes in and acts a fool. You know, there's only 2 of you guys. But that's what it was like. And I'm reflecting back, I was like, damn, that guy was brave, man, because he would come in, do havoc, and then come back into Mexico and just run the whole area down here in the Southwest. But it was really interesting to go out and see that stuff.
Oh my gosh, getting overrun as the CQ. I remember one time, you know, the worst thing was to have CQ and the soldiers be able to drink but not be able to leave the barracks.
Yeah,
For some
yeah.
reason. There's a couple times it happens, like you can drink but you just can't go anywhere.
Yeah,
It's
right.
Like, all of a sudden it's like, wow.
Right. Remember, they used to make us take their keys.
Yeah. Crazy times. Crazy
Yeah.
times.
And I saw I saw your post on there. You know what? Here we are guarding the motor pool, guarding the parking lot. Yeah, believe me, I remember all those days like that.
Right. So, you know, we used to study to be supernumerary to
Yeah,
get out of motor
right.
pool guard.
Yes.
And then that ended, and then suddenly we started to have to guard the parking lot. Like if you're on CQ, you had to take an hour and go walk around the parking lot with a road guard vest and a flashlight. And dude, I saw so many crazy things in the dang parking lot, man. People come up drunk and dumping off girlfriends and
Yeah.
crazy things,
Yeah.
man. Crazy.
Yeah. There was all kinds of. Yeah. When I saw and you posted that, I was like, man, I didn't even think about all that, you know, and you just you hit a memory, you know. And we used to talk about being in the motor pool because I think somebody commented, he's like, okay, we know what was the purpose of being down in the motor pool. But you remember we had people stealing parts off Humvees.
They were gonna steal the part off a Humvee regardless because they were an alpha battery, dude. They were doing it when they were on guard duty. Or Bravo battery. It doesn't matter. Some other battery.
You saw somebody with and you know everybody knows each other. Oh, hey, you know, Johnson's vehicle is non-mission capable. 2 days later, all of a sudden, you know, that vehicle went from non-mission capable, you know, to operational. And then here we are over here. We're like, hey, what happened to this? This Humvee's missing a tire. You know, I was like, what the hell? You know,
Hey,
it was all crazy.
It's not cannibalization. It's
right.
Reutilization.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I mean, look, we grew up in a mantra of Marine Corps BNOC points to try to get promoted. Remember that?
Yeah.
All that
right.
stuff, taking all the correspondence courses.
Right.
And, dude, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And if you ain't cheating, you ain't getting promoted in some ways, straight up.
Right.
And, you know, we lived through that, right? I was an E5 promotable for 6 years.
Right. For how much?
I was an E5 promotable for 6 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I got promoted. I was sent to the board with 4 years in the Army, and I got promoted to staff sergeant with 10 years in the Army. Isn't that wild to think about and look back? But that was all that Desert Storm, stop
Yeah,
loss. I didn't have an
right.
ounce of
Yeah,
college when I came
right,
in. You know, I had to go to school at night. I had to do all those correspondence courses.
right.
It was just crazy times,
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, lucky for me, Will, I had when I was at Fort Carson, as soon as I got there, that was part of our in processing, is that you had to do the correspondence courses and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of praised my NCOs during that time because I had upper hand already, you know, and I still talk to those guys, thanking them because they were my mentors too on that level, as far as my MOS. But remember, we had to study for SQT, SDT, remember all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So that we were deep in the books, and that was part of the promotion points too, Will. That's why we had to do really well on our MOS and shooting and physical fitness and all that. You know,
Didn't the Army do such a good job of taking care of us?
I,
Right?
yeah, I do, and I hate to hear people badmouth the military, whatever service it is. I mean, because it's like, and it's always the one that doesn't know. They have no clue what they do. All they hear is, oh, soldiers are mentally disturbed. There's mentally people disturbed in education, law enforcement, nursing, technology, Amazon. There's people mess up all over. You don't just single out the military and say that. So I kind of take it personal when I hear stuff like that.
I'm very proud of my service. I'm very proud of the service of you and all the other, heroes around us, right? We look at that pin. I love it. I love it. Yeah, and we did it. And look, our buddies are still doing it. Burnley's
Yeah,
the daggone still, post
yeah,
command sergeant major.
yeah,
General Holler is 94th
yeah.
double AMDC. Those people are still
Well,
there.
I don't know if you know Walker,
Maybe.
Command Sergeant Major Walker. He's the 11th Air Defense CSM. That was one of my privates.
Yay, that's awesome.
And I still contact, seeing that kind of stuff, that's like rewarding. I mean, you don't see too many. Yes, and Burnley was one of our E4s. We were in the same platoon. Burnley was a E4, back then.
Yeah, yeah. Crazy,
So
crazy to see, and just so many wonderful people that we were
yeah,
around, right?
yeah,
And at every turn, they showed us what right looked like, and then we just tried to model
yeah,
it after them. I
yeah.
talked to my very first squad leader the other night on the phone. I haven't talked to him in 25 years. It was just
Wow.
amazing. Yeah.
And it was like when you guys talked, it was like just being like you guys just talked yesterday.
It's really, I'm telling you, that's one thing that I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm loving this. I'm loving having these conversations. They're just heartwarming, dude.
Yeah,
Look, every American and German that I talk to are just amazing people, right?
right,
Yeah,
right.
amazing. All of us stood in that gap. Were paratroopers ready to go out the door at a moment's notice to
Yeah,
win freedom for our nation, right?
right, right. We were there for the Call of Duty, America's police. That's what we were known for.
Hey, and I'd go back and do it now again if I had to, by golly, you
Yeah,
know. But I tell you, one of the things I wonder about now, though, honestly, is whether I'd rather be a human or an American, right? Can I find a way to also be a human and care about my brothers and love, right? It's one thing to
right.
be an American and wave the flag, but let's stop endless wars. Let's not go
Yeah,
fight places that we got to go fight just for. Let's not make up crap to do, okay?
yeah, yeah. No, I know. I look back on your pictures because I see how you post your pictures and your interactions with your with your soldiers and all that stuff that you had put, like, I mean, like the battalion level or unit level. I saw how engaged you were. That is, that's what you want to be. That is the human side of caring, protecting, mentoring, and you not only did you just do the male soldiers, but it's also the female soldiers and their families, so I got to see, so that's why I cherish and I like looking at that kind of stuff. I might not always comment, but I'll do a like or something like that, because there's so much, that we look at and do, but those are the things that I do appreciate, because like I said, a lot of people don't know the things that we do, because we do so much, for families and our soldiers, their kids, our own family sacrifices, I mean, it's just a lot.
Juan, it's been great to talk to you, man.
Likewise.
So cool. You are
Likewise.
a hero, man.
Yeah.
You're just a wonderful example, and you're still standing in the gap with our young people today as a teacher for our youth, right? You get to see, let me tell you something. Our public school system is not the most well-supported, well-funded organization that it should be, right?
Right.
A lot of people abandoned our public schools many years ago.
Yeah.
And it's sad. So thank you for what you're doing. And you are making a difference with the young people in our country.
Right. Well, I appreciate you asking me to do this. It's an honor. I told you, like I said, that was an honor. Just being on your podcast thing. It's great. It's amazing, and I thank you as well, Will. Putting this together and publicizing it, because we get to see people that we haven't seen in a while. Like I was telling you, for example, Oosterhout. That was one of my mentors. So I was like, thank God I get to see somebody there, that I didn't have not seen. And we're talking about 1992, 93.
Isn't that wild?
So I appreciate everything that you do for reaching out to us, the career.
I love it, man. I tell you, this is for your kids and grandkids, okay? That's what this is for. I wish I had my grandfather in an interview with him, telling about his life and times and the things that were important to him, and when he was standing in the gap as a young man. And we're just the right age that we can kind of look back on those times. Our testosterone level has peaked, and we're starting to go down a little bit. We're not fighting each other.
Yeah, right.
And man, it's such wonderful. Thank you so much, Juan.
Thank you,
Ferreira,
Will.
man. It's been a blast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. God bless, Will.
We got to know we can't. I almost forgot. You got to call your unit to attention, and you got to salute and sign out. You got to. It just that's a rule.
So we call them to.
Yeah, so you were a first sergeant when you retired, right? So you call your battery to attention, and then say First Sergeant Ferreira signing out or something like that. Can you do that?
Yeah, I sure will.
I love it.
Battery attention. First Sergeant Ferreira signing out. Thank you, First Sergeant Will Marshall.
I love it, man. I love you, buddy.
All right, take care, brother.
Blessings.
Bless you likewise.